Someone is asking question on this point, right? So go ahead. Do not yet joined. Guys, anyone have any concerns with the performance tuning of stored procedure? Performance tuning of stored procedure. See, basically we discussed 3 points, right? The first point we have to say is, first I will check the execution plan by running the select statement of stored procedure and see whether it is performing index seek or index scan, right? So based on that, I will create indexes on join fields and also where clause filters, right? And then once after creating, see how to identify whether we need to create indexes or not is by using index seek or index scan, or also we can check the table here whether it is indexed or not. So go to tables and then indexes, you can get to know here, right? If there are no indexes involved, go ahead and try to create indexes on join fields and also the where clause filters from any of the table which you are using in the select statement, right? In my case, I'm using employee ID from employee table and another employee ID from the temp table here, and also employee age from the EMP table. So I should create cluster index on these IDs and non-cluster index on this column. Why? Because we can create only one cluster index onto a table that we have created for employee ID, and for employee age, I'll create the non-cluster index. That is the first point we discussed. And then the second point is, try to check, and if still it is taking time, try to check each individual table counts which are in select join statements, and if any of the table has huge volume of records or huge volume of records, then try to try to insert huge volume table records into a temp table by providing where clause filter here. Here itself, and join back the temp table in main select statement, so that the rest all joins will perform on less volume of records than earlier. Agree? This point, that is what I implemented here. This one. And one more thing, and also we can use set no count on. In the stored procedure, if you run any code, it will return the number of rows affected by that query. So since it is aggregate functions involved backgroundly, if you set no count on, then that count will not be retrieved, so that we can save some more time of the stored procedure running time. All right. So these are the 3 points. If you tell it clearly, like I explained it now, or like I typed it, then the interviewer will get satisfied. The performance tuning of stored procedure. Definitely there will be a question on this, guys. Being experienced guys, definitely there will be a question in interview on this, right? So try to remember these 3 points and then tell the same way. Any questions on performance tuning of stored procedure?
Instead of using temp tables, so you told that other than all index, by using indexes, it will be accesses will be fast.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. So is there any need to use again temp table? Instead of that, we can use directly indexes and then we can retrieve the
First, that's what we tried, right? First, we tried indexes only. Still, if it is taking time, then only go for 0.2. That's what I told. Try to create indexes. If still it is taking time because of the huge volume of records, on top of that, if you're using any where clause filters, then if you try to create a temp table along with the where clause filter here itself, the data huge volume of records will be reduced, and then the join will perform faster than the earlier. And you can also create indexes on this temp table for your information, right? Why? Because if you use CDE, we cannot create indexes. So that's the reason why we are going for temp tables.
Okay. If we want a 1 crore records data at a time, then we can't do.
Sorry?
It is splitting the data. If it is 1 crore records, so it is giving where condition where it can access 40 lakhs by giving that where condition. So what about the remaining data? Like if I want a full table data access,
you don't give the where clause filter. That's it, right?
So then time takes.
Yeah, it will take some time, but that's what I'm telling. If it is taking time, then create the indexes. There is no other option if the data is huge. If there is where clause filter, then try to insert a filter data into a temp table. That is unnecessary, right? So what happens, first the join will perform. On top of joining data, filter will be applied. So this is twice condition applying, right, on the data. So first thing is whether the records are matching or not based on the joins. On top of that, again, this is one more filter. So obviously it will take some time. So instead of that, we can use this where clause filter here itself, and we can avoid it here.
And indexes will be always like a clustered index should use only on the column names, and where classes should use only in the non-clustered. That is the rule. Where class in where class we should
no,
use
that's not the rule.
cluster.
That's not the rule. Only on the where clause filters. If it is composite cluster index, then you can use the where clause filters here, right?
Yes.
This is a prime cluster index. So that is not the rule. Since we have created a cluster index already in this column, we cannot create on the second column, right? On the same table. That's why we are using in the where clause filter non-cluster index.
So in vice versa also we can use their non-clustered and
if
here.
Let's say for your answer, for your question. So if I use select star from EMP, where employee ID greater than 10. So now I have used the cluster index column in the where clause filter, right?
Yes.
So that's not the case here. Since I have already used the cluster index field in the join condition, But the same cluster index we cannot create in other columns, right? If it is not composite clustered. So that's why you have to create the non-clustered index.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other question from anyone? Guys, this is very important. If you have any questions, you can ask me.
Yeah, Amar, I have a doubt.
Mhm.
While we are discussing about indexes topic, right, you have told one point there. Um, while doing insert statement, if you have some indexes on the columns,
Mhm.
it will take some time,
Correct.
right, to insert while there is huge data.
Hmm.
And then we will do, we'll drop the indexes and we will try to insert the data to
Mhm.
perform the query faster, right?
Yes.
It is also comes under performance tuning technique, one of the technique. But now
Yeah.
here we are again creating indexes to make the query faster. Same thing we are performing for
No,
inner
when you see,
join.
that's what I mentioned you here, select statements, not the insert. If it is insert, maybe you can add one more point here. If you are inserting data into a indexed table, right? Index table, then try to delete or try to drop index first and then insert data and recreate index. The order is, maybe I'll tell you this way: drop index, then insert data, and then recreate index. This method you can follow if it is a insert operation is taking time. Clear?
Yes.
Okay.
But here in the case of inner join, we are creating again indexes, right? My question is that, oh, if there is no inner join, we can go these three steps, right? Drop, index, insert statement, and recreate.
If there is no inner join, means
Here, in the case of inner join, when we are combining the data,
Mhm.
we are creating indexes on the two column fields, right?
Correct.
Joining fields.
Mhm.
This is here also we are doing some insert statement only now.
Data exactly. Maybe instead of selecting here, if you're inserting data, you mean to say?
Yeah.
See, that's what. If insert is taking time, then only follow this method. Otherwise, indexes won't affect much. You have to observe the insert statement of any stored procedure after creating index. If it was running for within 20 minutes earlier, after creating index, if it is running for hours, then only you have to follow this. If it is 10 minutes or 5 minutes time, then you no need to do this index dropping and recreating. Why? Because index dropping and recreating again also will take some time. That is also there. If the data is huge, if you drop it and recreating index again on a huge volume of records, it's a time taking process. So if insert is taking time, then only follow this. Otherwise, don't do it. Not mandatory.
Okay. Okay.
Are we on the same page, or still you have a question on that?
No. No. Okay. I'm fine.
Yeah. Any questions from anyone? Okay. If not, we have one simple concept called user-defined functions, and maybe I'll tell you that one tomorrow, along with the interview questions in SQL Server. Okay. Maybe we'll finish it within first 30 minutes, or else maybe we have time today, right? I'll tell you the interview questions today itself, and then tomorrow we'll finish the functions concept. Okay. Yeah. See, basically interview point of view, guys, if anyone is not thoroughly practicing up to date, so try to at least follow it from today. Tomorrow I'll just take 30 minutes class on functions, and then I'll give break day after tomorrow Sunday, right? So try to take some time and finish all the SQL concept. Okay. Once SSIS starts, you have to take care of both SSIS and then SQL. Otherwise, you'll forget the SQL, right? So you have to spend more time going forward. So try to be thorough in SQL first, right? So take time today, tomorrow, and day after, and try to finish the SQL concept. Okay. So first thing, once after you do introduction of yourself in interview, they'll start with depends on their mood. Either they'll start with SQL Server or they'll start with SSIS. Mostly they don't start with SSRS, right? So they'll start with either SQL or SSIS. So 90% or 80% they'll start with SQL, and based on your introduction, they'll ask you directly questions on performance tuning. So how do you tune the long running code? They'll ask you this question. Or how do you do performance tuning of a stored procedure? Either way. SP means stored procedure, right? Why the first question they'll ask you this one is, in introduction you only will I'll tell you that one at last. Basically you'll tell one point in introduction. I'll create indexes to load aggregated data into the reporting tables. If let's say if that stored procedure is running for a long time, I'll work on tuning the stored procedure code to run it faster. We'll tell this word while explaining about yourself or roles and responsibilities. So based on that point, they'll ask you this question, right? So we'll be giving hints to the interviewer to ask these questions so that whatever we know, we can answer it thoroughly, right? So that's why they'll ask you this question straight away. And there will be a question between differences between varchar versus nvarchar. This is one. And then difference between local temp table versus global temp table. And first I'm talking about differences. Difference between temp table versus CT, they might ask you, right? And differences between stored procedure versus function. In this one I'll tell you tomorrow. Rest all you know, right? So these points I'll tell you tomorrow once after the function concepts. This is also important, differences between a stored procedure and then a function. Okay. And how do you delete duplicates? In SQL Server, right? You have to say with CTE by using ranking functions, right? So you have to explain. Sometimes they'll ask you the query to write it, or sometimes they'll ask you the process. You have to prepare it for both. And what are joins? Sometimes they'll ask you simple definition of joins, or they'll give you example, sample result set, right? And they'll ask you how many number of rows retrieved by this query. So let's say they'll give 1, 1, 0, 1, and then the second table is 1, 1, and then 0, 1, and then null. They'll give results at something like that, table A and then table B. All right. So they'll ask you how many records will be fetched as output for inner join, and how many records for left outer, how many records for right outer. And also they might ask you the question, I want to retrieve data from the right table which is not there in the left table. So I told you one query, right? So either that they'll ask you, or simple they'll ask you what are joins, or they'll give you the sample data set and they'll ask you the question, how many number of rows written by this query. So now tell me guys, how many rows for inner join? Already forgot everyone. How many rows for inner join? I don't know why you guys are taking too much time. You already forgot the joint concepts or what? I think everyone told correct while discussing about joint concept, right? So now why you are hesitating?
I think 9.
9 for?
I think inner join.
4 rows, sir.
4 rows? Strange man. 4 and then 9. Then
So 3, I think.
3 for
3
inner
also.
join.
Maybe. 3 for inner join.
3 for?
Inner join.
How, Baba? Can you explain?
So in table here you have
1, right?
3 inputs. Exactly 1.
So how the joins will be performed? Each row of one table will map with all the rows in the another
table.
right?
Table.
So now tell
Yes,
me
sir.
how many times this one is matching in the other table?
3 times.
3 times, right? And then
Ah.
next
Next 3.
next
Inner
again 1,
join
right?
10.
1
Again
is
3
again
times.
matching with 3 times, right?
3
3
times.
times.
Zero
0 with
is
1 time. Third row with 1 time.
1,
1
right?
time.
And
Then
again
1
1
with
is
3
again
times.
with 3 times. So how many rows
3
total?
times.
3 times.
10 times.
10 for inner
10.
joint, right? So then how come
Yes,
you guys are
exactly.
telling 3, 4? At least someone told close to 9.
It's me actually.
Mhm. Okay, and how many for left outer join? Is it 9 or 10 or 11?
10 only.
How many for right? No, left
10.
it
For
is
left
10 only.
10.
Left it is
Left 10, sir.
Left
Yeah.
10.
For left outer
Left
join.
is 10, sir.
Left 10.
And for right outer join?
11.
11.
11, sir. 11.
Cross join?
20.
20, sir. 20.
Yeah. I think everyone forgot the concept again. So guys, try to refresh your skills. Okay. And then there will be a question on CT. Straight away they'll ask you CT, or maybe differences between table versus CT. And how do you find out nth maximum salary? Which means nth in the sense maybe 5th or 4th or 3rd, whatever it is, right? So how to find out 5th maximum salary, guys? Can anyone tell? Yes, I think you are not preparing only. You are just watching the videos and then simply leaving out, I guess. These are the initial concepts.
We can do it by seating using rank functions.
Using which ranking function?
Dense rank. Dense rank.
Yeah, dense rank, and where rank equals to 5 if it is the 5th maximum.
Yeah, rank equal.
Right, guys, these are all very important, so try to read out again and again. Okay, you will get 95% of the questions whatever we are discussing now, right? And let me go through the course content if I missed out any. Yeah, identity column also they'll ask you a question. How difference between delete and truncate? Delete versus truncate, and then how does delete work delete and truncate work for identity column. How? You all remember? I told you these points also.
Yes, sir.
If let's say last identity value is 10, if I delete the data, if I try to insert it, what identity value will be inserted again?
11.
If I truncate,
If you truncate from 1.
it will start with the beginning value again, right? So guys,
Yes.
try to write it down all the points which we are discussing in the class, right? So they'll cover you interviews only the topics, right? 90%. So be thorough with that. And then indexes, separately they can ask you how many types of indexes you have to answer. And then ranking functions. Yeah, ranking functions, they'll ask you what are ranking functions. And then differences between primary key and unique key. And also differences between index seek versus index scan. Okay. What else? Views they might ask or they might not. Mostly they won't touch on views. In date functions, maybe how to go back to beginning of the month, a previous month, or last month, last working day. So they might ask you, maybe you can check it in Google, how to go back to previous month starting date, starting or ending, right? They'll ask you, I think there are few date functions you need to add it. So you can refer this one in Google. Okay, based on our explanation in data date functions, right? So it will be the same. You can refer that. I think that's it. So these are the few questions mostly they'll cover you in interview, right? Be in thorough with this, and yeah, easily you can clear it if you attend almost 5 to 7 interviews, right? So that's why I'm always telling you guys, saying that you have to prepare it well, and also whatever the concepts or definitions which you are discussing, try to note it down on your notebook, right? So you cannot refer my class record and again playing it and then forwarding it, right? So when you are listening, try to note it down the definitions on the notebook, so that for revision it will be easy for you only, right?
And the
And
fully qualified select statement also will be right, sir.
yeah, sometimes out of 10 interviews, 1 or 2 they can ask you. Yeah, they'll ask you what is the order of select statement. Order of select statement. All right. What I was telling. Yeah, try to note it down on the notebook and then do revision, guys. And if it is possible for you, try to note it down all the definitions in the Word document and send it to me if you anyone is preparing, right? That will be useful for other guys also. I'll send it to everyone. Okay. If anyone is preparing all the if anyone is trying to write it down all the definitions in the Word document, so once you are done, so please send it to me. I'll send it to everyone so that they can refer it on their mobile also, right? They can open the Word document, right? So if anyone is interested to do that, you can do it and send it to me, guys. You can note it down all the definitions in the Word document and send it to me. Okay. I think that's it. The SQL point of view, and tomorrow we have one concept which is SQL functions, user defined functions. So maybe it will take just 20 or 30 minutes, and then we'll finish with the SQL tomorrow. We'll start with SSIS Monday freshly. And if anyone hasn't installed the Visual Studio, try to install it, guys. Okay. I think, yeah, that's it for today. We'll connect tomorrow again. Thanks for joining.